Hey, Don, how are you?
Fine. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. Big day, celebrating 50 years. I mean, when you look back at something, obviously, that is so iconic with your song, but does 50 years seem like yesterday, or does it seem like literally forever ago?
Both of those things. It's forever and it's yesterday. There you go. Yesterday is forever.
You just wrote another one, Don. 50 years from now, we're going to be singing that back.
How do you spell your name? Bone. Okay, I'll make sure I put that on there.
Yeah, put that on there. Hey, so to me, I talk to a lot of songwriters. I have a lot of songwriter friends, and some songs
Sure.
they can literally remember when they're in the room, and some songs that are big hits they can't. And they're like, I wrote so many songs, I don't quite remember that. With American Pie, can you still see yourself in the room, coming up with ideas, putting pen to paper?
Yes, I have a very good memory of a lot of stuff like that, almost like a child. I know exactly what I was doing. I was sitting in a little chair that had rockers on it, and I used to rock in this little room, and it was a schoolroom chair made out of oak, and I have a little typewriter, and I type on it. And so that's probably where I typed the song up in that little room in Cold Spring, New York, where I wrote a lot of songs.
Do you finish and go, I think we got something here that is going to have a heavy commercial appeal? Or do you go,
No, I don't ever think that.
never?
I
So
don't think.
when did you
No.
first get that feedback to where they're like, man, there's something to this, not just commercially, but culturally?
I Time passed, but I can tell you from the very beginning, the song was a phenomenon. I had a year where I was almost like the Beatles. Everywhere I went, I was on the news. Audience would swoon, girls would pass out. I really had that sort of teen idol thing for about a year, I would say, because of the song. And then there was a sort of backlash against it. Rolling Stone wrote a lousy review and started to destroy my career, but they couldn't stop the song. It kept going and going and going, and I kept going. And 50 years passed. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've had several comebacks. This is one of them right now.
Yes, and I'm glad to be a part of it, Don. I always love a good comeback story.
Yeah, I've got quite a few.
The song comes in at a little more than 8 minutes. And I was looking at some chart data here. I'm always impressed by people that kind of set standards and break records. And it's the longest song to ever hit #1 on the pop chart. Now, with it being 8 minutes, did you guys plan to fully go all 8 minutes in, or did you have a shorter version in case it wasn't getting played on
No,
radio?
as I told you already, I don't think about commercial things. I just did it, and I presented what I do, which every real, most groups that are important or singers that are important really create what they do, and either the record company likes it or they don't. So in my case, I do a lot of different things. And I Love You So is a very popular song, the most recorded song I ever wrote. But a lot of people don't even know I wrote that song. My version of Crying, which was #1, and people hear that a lot, probably don't even know it's me. So I do a lot of different things, but the song artistically had to be the length that it was in order to completely satisfy the story that I was telling. So I gave the album to them. They loved the album. They loved the song. They immediately didn't even ask me. They cut it down to 2.5 minutes, put it on the radio. It went to #1. And then people bought the album, and then they started to play the full version, and that went to #1.
Back February 3rd, 1959 is the date that is the day the music died after, Buddy Holly, who I'm a massive fan of, obviously the Big Bopper, Richie Valens. Can you vividly remember that day? I know you talk about it in the song, but do you remember that day and going, man, I really should do something with this at some point?
No, I never thought about doing anything with anything. I'm all heart. That's all I am. I'm very sentimental. It was a painful thing for me. I was 13 years old, and it was the first, personal death I had ever experienced, except maybe for a cat or a dog. And it stayed with me and for forever. But I remember that nobody really cared. I went to school. I said, Buddy Holly died. And they said, "No, so what? He hadn't been on the charts in 2 years. It wasn't a big deal." Now, of course, you know, if that story was a big story in Texas, a whole different thing. He was their boy, and but in America, we didn't look back in those days. If somebody died, that was it, and you moved on. And you didn't spend this time mourning and remembering and going back and over and over. But American Pie is the ultimate song of mourning, really, mourning the country, mourning him. And that's partly what's resonates with people in this country now, and also perhaps even created part of the reason why the country is the way it is. I don't know. But there is a need to hold on to things. Uh, we've been through a war and a depression, and there's a lot of things that were lost. So you didn't hold on to the death of a rock and roll star who was off the charts for 2 years. We didn't hold on to things like that. You moved forward and you sucked it up and forgot about it, like they do in Israel. But, all of a sudden now we're always talking about Elvis and Marilyn. And I even have a song about George Reeves, Superman. He's one of the secondary deaths, that now and then get talked about. But no, I had somebody called this day, the 3rd of February, the day that music died, and that stuck. And I'm so happy about that, because to have my song and something that I did be part of this monumental day, and it's the death of this monumental singer. And let's not sell short Richie Valens, who was 17 years old and was already making hit records. And we have a lot of Spanish people in our country now that come from Mexico and South America, and they're terrific, terrific, hardworking people. And he's their guy, and those records linger on. Donna is really one of the great hit songs of the 50s. It's unforgettable once you hear it. So, Buddy was the template for all the rock bands that came later. It wasn't like Elvis. Elvis had a choral group behind him in the form of the Jordanaires, but Buddy had the double guitars and the whole thing the Rolling Stones do. And he wrote 60 songs maybe, and every one of those is a hit. And I don't think John Lennon, Paul McCartney, or anybody else has done that.
I have two more questions for you. I'm just very appreciative to be talking with you. I read this online, and I know everything online is not true. Some things about myself get written. It's not true. But I read that you make $500,000 per year in just royalties on this song.
I make a lot of money on all my music from all over the world, and I don't know how much money I make from that song. If it's used in a major advertisement and a sync license, it could be more than that. I have 200 songs that are played in 92 countries every day.
It's a lot of songs in a lot of places. I'll be honest with you. One other thing, growing up as a kid, I was a big Weird Al fan. When he parodies your song, do you get to hear it first, and do you get irritated with it?
Well, no, I love these things when they're done well, and Al does everything well, and he's a terrific guy. I loved it, and I couldn't believe what a great recording it was, and how funny it was. And he's just a good guy and a good-hearted guy, and he does something that is just purely entertaining and fun, and I love him. I was very happy, and I was honored that he did that.
Mention a few things that you have going on here. The feature-length documentary, The Day the Music Died, the story behind Don McLean's American Pie, set for release at the end of 2021. He'll be featured on a new recording of American Pie with the country group Home Free. And then tell me about this new stage play because you have so many great songs. So what's happening with that, and what's that going to be?
Well, the same people that did the Carole King Broadway show, I have a contract with now, and they put money into this. They're going to do this, and it's going to be one of these kind of songbook shows, with a lot of my songs and a storyline supposedly and probably about my journey, as this children's book is also about me as a child. So everything I do is personal. So no matter how much you might like any song of mine, it always comes back to some event in my life. And in the case of American Pie, of course, it starts with me being a paper boy, and it's the only job I ever had in my life was as a paper boy. So that's the personal part that's in the song.
Don McLean, one of the most respected songwriters in American history. Thank you for sharing your story. Good luck. Sounds like you got so much going on. Heck, 200 countries right now jamming the Don McLean hits. Can't get enough of that, baby.
Swing it.
All right, Don, good to talk to you, bud.
All right, thank you.
Hey guys, it's Bobby Bones. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and then go check it out. A lot of artists, a lot of songwriters, a lot of music. Welcome to the Bobby Cash channel.